Now, going on to risk itself. What I want to bring out in this discussion of risk is how has this changed in the current context of high prices? So, what is physical and security risk? The probability of physical loss or damage, theft, and fraud, both on the plantation and during transportation. Now, this increases substantially in this context. I was talking to an exporter recently, and he compared a container of coffee to an armored car that delivers and receives money from banks. It's a bit larger, a bit heavier, but it's the same thing. It's a cash on wheels, and it has the advantage that it's untraceable. So there's a greatly increased incidence of theft during such a circumstance. The normal instruments to deal with this would be insurance. Now, in practice, and going back to my experience in the Brazilian export sector, insurers are not interested or capable of dealing with this type of problem. They just wash their hands. So in practice, exporters or traders are forced to increase the physical security. So you put armed guards, you bring the coffee down from the interior to the ports in convoys, you institute satellite tracking. On the plantation level, many times the grower sits outside his house at night with a shotgun in his hand and tries to get people who strip the coffee trees of their cherries by night. Now, going on to the question of quality and value risk. This is where the goods do not match the description. Now, what are the instruments available to deal with this? There are minimum quality standards, including one instituted by the International Coffee Organization, but on a voluntary basis. There are ISO standards, but the main safeguard are the standardized contracts. And here we have two basic ones which are used in the trade, the European Coffee Contract and the contract of the Green Coffee Association of New York. There's a very great asymmetry in power in the coffee trade. The coffee trade is dominated by a very reduced number of traders, importers, and roasters. They have a great amount of market power. And on the other side, you have a very pulverized structure of both at the production level and at the export level. So the market power is very unbalanced here. And I think a very good example of this is the European Coffee Contract, which includes mechanisms for dispute resolution. And in the preamble to this contract, if you see this second item here, I always like to read this. It's a very interesting use of words, but it says, even if the price is expressed free on board port of shipment, the contract is in fact to be considered as an ill-defined cost and freight contract, the freight being for account of the buyers. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that the buyer, technically he buys FOB. He has all the advantage of his market power to negotiate very favorable freight rates with the shipping companies. On the other hand, he treats the coffee received as if it were a cost and freight delivery. So both the weight and the quality are established at the delivery point. So there's, as I said before, there's a very great asymmetry in market power in this question of quality relations between exporters and importers. I don't think there's any way around it. We just have to, I learned to live with it during my time in the private sector, and that is how we go on about it. With regard to what happens in a context of high prices, in the first moment, while prices are rising, this is favorable for exporters because it's very rare for importers to quibble about quality when the prices are rising every day, and they will not reject a shipment on the basis of quality in this context. Now we are reaching a point where prices seem to be stabilizing more, and then there is an increase in the risk for the exporter because any quality claim obviously will be on a much higher price basis. So this increases the overall risk. Now, performance and counterpart risk. This is the risk that one of the parties does not fulfill its obligations, a default. There are instruments such as limiting exposures to individual suppliers, establishing lists of reliable suppliers, creating strong internal administrative processes, and monitoring the behavior of trading partners. Obviously, in a context of high prices, this risk increases. What we have been seeing is that some defaults have occurred, but at the base of the marketing chain. The coffee trade is a very traditional trade. It's driven by personal relations, by reputation, and exporters, traders, will do everything in their power to fulfill their obligations and maintain their good name. And so this is what happened, what has been happening. There have been some scattered defaults at the, let's say, the farmer level, but the exporters have absorbed these losses and have, and in general, complied with their obligations. Obviously, at a higher price level, the risk overall increases. So if we were to see the unlikely possibility of a major player running into difficulties, then this could have an effect on the overall market. But so far, this has been avoided.